Great, welcome back. We're talking about those pot stickers now, which we are going to lighten up today in a couple of different ways. First things first is typically they're made with ground pork that has quite a bit of fat in it. So we're cutting that fat by using either a lean turkey, this is like a 95, 94% lean, which is great, or even ground chicken. I prefer turkey because I think it holds the moisture a little bit better that we're going to get from what is the second part of the thing that's lightening up, is all of these veggies that you see in front of you. So the combination of the vegetables and the leaner protein is taking something that would normally not be a very healthy snack option down into the realm of something with portion control, of course, that actually makes it pretty great for you because you're going to get some additional health benefits from what the ingredients, especially the vegetable ingredients, bring to you. So the first thing we'll talk about is what really is the very first step of making the pot stickers, and that's soaking the dried shiitakes. So you've seen shiitake mushrooms in the produce section, which are delicious. However, in this application, what we're looking for is a little bit deeper of a mushroom flavor, and we get that from the dried mushroom. Now, if you were to actually touch one of these mushrooms, they're super crumbly, and no one would ever really want to eat anything like that. They're kind of leathery and strange. So what we do is we soak them in a combination of warm water and sherry or rice wine, so a Chinese rice wine or just a sherry like you get in your grocery, and then they really feel more like what would be a sauteed mushroom. So we take that, we've drained the liquid out, we're going to discard that liquid. It tends to be a little bit bitter and kind of gamey. It's an odd combination of flavors, but so we're going to get that out of there. And then we take the stem out because the stem really does not ever soften up. So we cut that out. Actually, let me get a few of these on my board here. And this is a ½ ounce of dried, which I always find to be terribly miraculous that they can turn into something that weighs so much more. So we'll just discard that little bit there. If they feel like they're really very tough, you can go a little bit deeper into the flesh of the mushroom like I did there. But otherwise, we're just kind of more or less scraping that out of there. And then the easy way to actually cut these up is because they've gotten so flimsy, they look like they're very slippery, but they're really not. And you actually can stack those up and then mind your fingers, and we're just going to chop those. We're going to julienne them first, both little stacks there. Again, minding our fingers. And then you just do a quick flip there, and we'll come back in the other direction. And what's great about this at this point is we're really just combining all of these ingredients once they've been chopped. And you know, the magic of television is all of these things are kind of done before us. I recommend it. It's something that most chefs, I think it's one of the things that makes us really fast in the kitchen, is that we get all these things ready in advance, and then by the time it's really ready and you're ready to start mixing things together, you're just really kind of folding things together and you can go right into the actual cooking process. What's great about this is you can make the entire filling and hold it for as long as, 24 to 48 hours before you even make the dumplings. Once you get to the dumpling stage, the wrapper is very delicate, so we have to be careful with that ingredient because they'll get a little bit sticky and wet. So the next ingredient that we actually need to do something to and to understand a little bit about is bok choy. And you have this giant kind of head, what could be a very intimidating piece of greens. It's a dark leafy green. This is another one of those ingredients that's really going to do something great for you and keep your, kind of the nutritional density of this up. So what we'll do is it's easiest to do this kind of in two parts. And the first is to take that leaf off. We're going to use all of it. We're going to cut this little bit off at the end. And then we take this stem and cut it into kind of a long julienne. And by doing that, it's helping us to get it ready to kind of chop it down into the same size that our shiitake mushrooms are in. And then we roll this larger leaf up and actually kind of fold it over itself again. I'm just going to make this easy on myself. And then kind of the same motion that we did with the shiitakes. We'll cut it into a nice ribbon and then turn it again. You don't have to chop this up into a mince by any means, but it needs to be small enough that it's not going to poke holes into that delicate wonton wrapper. So you saw me pull a couple of pieces out there. They just felt really heavy, so I took them out. And then we'll come back to the stem, and we'll chop a little bit of that in there. You'll notice that I'm not measuring. Some of this is already chopped for me, but I'm eyeballing it, quite honestly. But you'll measure it so, because if you don't, this stem actually has quite a little bit of water in it. So you want to make sure that you're not kind of overwhelming the turkey with that water that's in the stem of the bok choy. So at this point, we've kind of done all of the chopping and the hard work. The rest of this is just a matter of mixing things together. We have some scallion that's been minced that goes in, gives it a really fresh, bright green flavor. We've got water chestnut, which you'll recognize. You can find those in the market really easily. Quite honestly, are often already kind of chopped or sliced for us. Lemon zest, this obviously is the lemon part of the lemon pot sticker. Then we've got some ginger that goes in. We have a little bit of sesame oil, just a touch. You saw that it was a very small amount. It's not really elevating the fat very much. It's also a nut oil, so it's relatively good for you, and it really gives it a big boost of flavor. And we have a low sodium soy sauce, and even though it seems counterintuitive, we're actually adding a little bit of salt there. It's just a different level of sodium. And then a shake of hot sauce, and a shake is relative, whoever's doing the shaking. I like mine kind of spicy, but you could leave it out if you really wanted to. And really those are all of the ingredients. So at this point we'll talk about a little bit of safety. I'm going to use my hands, impeccably clean fingers here. Most chefs really don't spend a lot of time with spoons and things in their hands when you're doing something like this, mixing vegetables and things into meats. So, and then we're going to wash really well. So what we'll do is just mix that in. It folds in really easily. That's one of the great things about chicken or turkey, is that they have a fairly loose grind to them. And that's it. It's that simple. Once you've got all the vegetables chopped, you're really just mixing it together. So I'm going to go wash up, and then when we come back, we'll actually shape those dumplings. So now that we're all washed up, let's make these wontons. Now I don't want this to be intimidating. It's really not difficult. It just takes a little bit of practice. And one of the things that you remember if you have a group of friends over, because whenever you're snacking, you should have friends. So when you're doing that, make them get in on the fun. Don't do all the hard work by yourself. So what we have, we talked about a little bit before, is a wonton wrapper. And wonton wrappers come in a pack. It kind of looks like a little brick. It's this. They're actually, you know, kind of a shuffle of cards of a very thin, delicate wrapper. You can find them round or square. We're going to use the square shape today because they're a little bit more common in the market. They're coated with cornstarch, which we want to keep that kind of practice in hand. So you'll see I've built a few. I'm going to show you step by step how to make a few more. But there is some cornstarch on a parchment paper lined baking sheet. Will just keep things from sticking together like we talked about earlier in the segment. That filling will get a little bit wet, so we want to make sure we're absorbing any moisture that we can with cornstarch. So what you need is, it's a good idea to have a damp towel around in case the edges start to get dry. If the edges get dry on the wonton skin, they'll tend to crack a little bit. So one of the important things to remember here is not to overfill. And for these, it's about 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons of filling, so which looks kind of like this. It's not a lot. I just have a regular teaspoon. You really can't go too far with the water here. So again, impeccably clean fingers. It just makes this easier. You can use a brush, but I promise you'll stop after about the 5th one of these because it'll just drive you a little bit nuts. So we're going to put that spoonful right in the center, and we're actually folding this lengthwise to the top. So you're going to start with a square and end up with a little narrow rectangle. And then I hold both hands, so I hold the dumpling in both hands, and you're making kind of almost a little bit of a triangular shape with that meat in the center, and all the while pushing out just a little bit of the air. You don't want to press hard because you'll end up with a flat little piece of meat in there. And then we're rotating it. We're going to go right over left with our fingertips, make a crimp, and then pinch. And you pinch relatively hard. As they steam, they'll open up a little bit. If you don't do that, you get air pockets, and then they'll actually explode instead of stick. And then we're going to do 3 across the top. So again, right over left and pinch, right over left and pinch, right over left, another nice good pinch. All the while my pinkies are kind of underneath here, holding this thing, giving it good support. And then the last one on the right, what is the right-hand side now for me, another pinch. And then when you put them down on On the cookie sheet, you just give them a little push so they get a nice flat bottom. Again, they won't stick very well otherwise. And then kind of turn those edges in. So I'll do another one. So we've got, again, our wonton skin in hand, a goodly amount of water on the edges. Don't worry about it being too much. You'll seal it up. That's why we do all 4 edges. About a teaspoon and a half of that filling right in the middle. Fold the edges again. From square to a rectangle, like we said before, press a little bit of the air, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little crimps, and then a turn. And then you just keep going. You see why you need friends, right? You could do this by yourself. It's the zen of making pot stickers. Never a bad idea. It can be quite relaxing. At least in my world it is. And they're so good. You just get to know that, you didn't have to have takeout. You have control of all of those ingredients in there. You know they're going to be healthier than if you went and bought them elsewhere. So it's a fun little story. It's a charming little legend of the pot sticker. The story is that chef for the Song Dynasty, China, I won't be able to tell you what years they are, I can't remember those numbers, but was making dumplings for the emperor, and his apprentice let them get away from him. So, stuck to the bottom of the pan. The course is due out in the dining room for some imperial banquet with, scads of people waiting to be fed. And what they did is serve them anyway. And so a happy accident has turned into something that everyone in the world knows about pot stickers. So I say that just tells you should experiment in the kitchen. You never know what might happen. So there we go. There are 24 pot stickers. Obviously, Magic of Television got some more prepared for me. But that's basically what this batch will make. You might get a few more, maybe a few less, but it doesn't matter. They're all going to be delicious. And if you have more than 24, you just keep them for yourself. So great. I hope you enjoy. We'll be back after this to make the sauce and fry these up. So we've spent our time and made our pot stickers. Now we're going to get to sticking. And we were talking about that poor little apprentice that let these things burn. Well, we're going to do it very intentionally. And while the pot stickers are browning and then steaming, which is a very kind of unique process, we'll make our sauce. So first thing, I have a stainless steel pan. You can use nonstick if you feel more comfortable with that, which doesn't make sense, pot sticker and a nonstick, but we'll go with it. So I use a stainless steel pan. I prefer it. I don't do well with nonstick pans. There's no real reason for it. So basically you're going to do this in batches. Easiest thing to do is into 3 until you get very comfortable with it, which allows you to use a smaller pan, and you're able to use fewer of them at a time, or cook fewer of them at a time. The other main thing that you need is a tight fitting lid. So everything that we need is here. The pot stickers are here. Obviously I have oil in hand. You need the water that you're going to use that's actually going to steam. So what's going to happen is the pot sticker goes into the hot pan that has the hot oil in it. It starts to brown. We're going to hit it with a little bit of water and put that lid on. So it's going to actually steam the dumpling and the meat inside the dumpling. So we brown and steam kind of simultaneously. While we're browning, we'll be able to put our sauce together. It's really easy. It's just a matter of mixing a few things together. So we put the oil in, give it a little swirl. You really want to make sure the bottom of that pan is coated well, or they will stick. I know it doesn't make sense. We're making pot stickers, but they'll stick in a bad way, not in a good way. And then we're just putting those things in there. You adjust your heat. We say about medium high, but it really depends on your stove, and you know your stove better than I ever would. So we're going to put some of those in there, 2 or 3 at a time. Give it 1.5 to 2 inches in between, so that they get plenty of room to brown in. And I think that's good. I don't want to overcrowd. And we're going to turn that up just a wee little bit because we want it to get actually browning there. I'm kind of knocking a little bit of that cornstarch off. I can tell that it's gotten a little bit sticky, but it won't work. What you don't want to do is use flour. If you ever use flour, it will really gum up. You're basically going to make a little roux in the bottom of the pan on your pot stickers, and that's, we're not our goal. So knock a little bit of that off. You'll see it's starting to sizzle a little bit, but it's certainly not a deep fry. It's just enough to keep in there. And they will stick, that's the goal, and then we're going to unstick them by doing the steaming. So while that's browning, we'll move over and make a very simple, very classic kind of pot sticker sauce. The only difference that we're using a lower sodium soy sauce. So otherwise, it's very kind of classic flavor profile here on this. So we've got our soy sauce. We'll add scallion again, that nice brightness of flavor. Ties in with the pot sticker really well. It brings that onion kind of brightness out again. We've got some rice wine vinegar. You want to use the unseasoned rice wine vinegar. The seasoned rice wine vinegar has salt and sugar in it, and you have no control in that situation. And then mirin, and mirin is a sweetened rice wine, and it actually is a great supplement for sugars and honeys, and we'll use it here as the sweetness. So we don't have to add any added sugar to that. And then some chili sambal, which is a very fancy name for a chili sauce that has garlic in it. It's quite spicy. I really like it. It's good. There's plenty of brands out there. You can buy, you know, any kind that you like. And again, you can make this as spicy as you like. Any of these, you know, the measurements obviously, it's kind of a ratio situation more than a measurement situation, but that's it. It's simple. That's done. And we'll put a little bit of that on our dish here, because once this comes together, it'll come together pretty quickly. So put a couple of teaspoons of that there. It's really good. It's very intense. It's intensely flavored. You don't need a lot of it, which helps you to control, again, the sodium and the sugar and whatnot. These are kind of creeping along here. We're starting to get a little bit of color on there. You don't have to use your fingers. We have tongs as well, but they're starting to. I'm going to let them get a little bit browner, and then we'll add that water to it. Okay, you'll notice I'm not using my fingers this time. Too hot to touch. Very hot pan at this point. We're going to hit this with a little bit of water. It's going to make a big steam. So have your lid and your pan ready, carefully away from yourself. We'll put this water in. We'll put the lid on and turn this down to about medium-low. And really your goal at this point is to finish cooking the meat inside, because it started to cook, but just from the bottom. And then what was sticking, though it didn't stick much in this case, is actually going to come unstick. And that dough will get even more delicate. So it looks like it was really sturdy when we were handling the dumplings, but it's going to be really soft and delicate when it's done. We'll have it with that intense dipping sauce. It's going to be fantastic. So now we just wait. Okay, great. So I've pulled the lid off. It's just a little bit of liquid in the bottom of the pan, nothing to worry about. We're ready to eat these. And you'll notice they have a beautiful color on the bottom. And pot stickers are traditionally presented with the brown side up. If you've gone to all that effort to get them to stick, then why wouldn't you? See how delicate those are? And, you know, kind of the very linear layout. It's not anything you'd have to do too much fancy plating there. They're very good. Well, now that we've done all this work and they've turned out so beautifully, I'm going to have a bite. Great.